Nation, Trace Strelko here. This is the Sons of UCF Live. Adam here. So is Leo Rodriguez, filling in for UCF Mike with a scheduling conflict, confirming UCF Mike has not entered the transfer portal. Correct, Adam?
Let's not start this again. Last time we did this transfer portal joke, it went on for like months. There was a lot of controversy. We need less controversy with the Suns right now, Trace, not more.
Leo, however, there are some names in the transfer portal. Breaking news just before we go live this Thursday. Offensive tackle Ethan Ward into the transfer portal, as is defensive end Keenis Thompson. And oh, by the way, quarterback Thomas Castellano. All right, first reaction, Adam. TC into the portal.
I mean, it's a tad surprising just based off the comments he had literally on Friday night at the spring game about how he's the future. I think we're going to play that clip here in a couple of seconds, Trace. So a little surprising off of those comments, but if we just take out his name for a second and what we know, if the headline just said backup quarterback enters transfer portal, we're all probably like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, JRP obviously has been QB1. It seems like that's where this was trending. I assume Tommy, like any athlete, wants a chance to get on the field and play. Maybe that path isn't available for him here. And so if he feels like there's a path elsewhere for him to go get on the field and play, I mean, welcome to college football in 2023, right? That's the unfortunate reality of where we are. I think it's all the more head scratching though, just because of those comments the other day, how much UCF had really been talking him up and how much he'd been available for media and on posters and pictures. But at the end of the day, a kid who was not necessarily guaranteed a starting spot has decided to go someplace else. We don't know where yet. You can make your assumptions to go someplace else and compete for a starting spot. That's not necessarily surprising news. So on two fronts, I mean, it makes some sense to me. But with the comments recently, that's the one thing that has me scratching my head.
Well, before we get Leo's reaction, you mentioned it following the spring game. Just last Friday, Thomas Castellanos went to the podium and delivered what is now a pretty interesting soundbite.
I'm looking forward to this fall. Hopefully, I do turn out to be the QB1, but if not, hey, I'm going to be number 2 and I'm the future of this place. So, charge on.
Hey, the mic drop moment, Leo.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at this one or two ways. If you are a UCF fan with all his 5 senses, you can just say, hey, he's just a kid. He doesn't know what he's really saying. I mean, he probably knew what he was doing and just gave you a wrong answer, which happens all the time. You know, these kids, they're 20 years old. They're not trained to handle media, professionally. And I personally, in my opinion, I view it in that perspective. But you can also view at it from the angle that he could be a little bit unpleased with the situation at UCF. And that was just a childish way to kind of jab back at the fan base, I guess. Not really, but just the program as a whole, oh, I'm the future. And next thing you know, he's gone, So it's like you can look at it from both ways. I'm going to take the way that's a little bit more, I guess you could say, friendly. He just didn't know what he was doing, said all that, and he's going to go on to play, I think, somewhere where he knows that he has a shot. And I don't think it'll be a P5 program, a perennial P5 program, but he's going to be a QB1 for certain. That's what.
Well, reaction coming on social media. UCF baseball center fielder and UCF football quarterback John Rice Plumlee saying, "My brother, somebody's getting a baller, be great kid," and former UCF quarterback Mikey Keene, now at Fresno State. Go do you, brother. Adam mentioned there by Leo of where he might end up. Of course, G.J. Kinney, now the head coach at Texas State. He was involved in that recruiting process for Thomas. So maybe that's a destination for him.
Yeah, I mean, you hope that he has something in mind, right? He has a place that he thinks he has an opportunity to play. And I think most kids these days are doing things like that, I would assume. But I mean, yeah, he's a talented kid. I mean, we liked what we saw from that perspective. We didn't see a lot of him. So, we'll see if he finds that opportunity. And, who knows? The portal's a crazy, wild place. I mean, the one thing this does do for UCF, if you want to look at the positive, it opens the spot up. Right. So now UCF has a chance to go in the portal and see if there's a quarterback that's out there. If there's a quarterback that was thinking about going into the portal and hadn't decided, now maybe decides to go in the portal. So it opens a spot if you want to look at the positive side. Or maybe it means JRP has improved that much that he's head and shoulders the quarterback, which is also good news for us. So a lot to unpack with all this stuff.
3 of us, of course, at the spring game last Friday. Leo, you were down on the field. What did you see in limited action from Timmy McClain, whose profile now moves up a bit?
Yeah, Timmy, I think he's a little rusty, and it might be because he took that 1 year off after he transferred from USF. Very surprised with the amount of series he was in there. He was only there for maybe 1 or 2 drives, and I don't know how I would take that as a fan or as a coach. You're only giving your QB3 one or two drives. That's fine. Obviously, Darren Hinshaw saw something in Tommy to putting him, giving him basically the same amount of drives as JRP got. So um, I don't think Hinshaw was maybe expecting this. Maybe he was. I think that Tommy is going to, move on to another program and be a solidified QB1 because that's what he wants. And that's what he's in the portal in search for. But Timmy McClain, he's QB2 now until another QB comes in and, takes over that spot. And I can't.
So you give him a long chance to hold that spot. I see, Leo.
Yeah, I can't see. The thing is, he didn't impress myself with what I saw, and he's obviously not impressing coaches if he's only being in there for 1 or 2 drives, which is kind of I rose my eyebrows at that because I just wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a little bit more of Timmy McClain.
Here's what I'll say about Timmy. I said this in the pod this week. Like, certainly he doesn't look like your classic quarterback, right? When you saw him on the field with the other two, he looked a little bit behind from mechanics perspective. The ball didn't come out as quickly. But I will say this: the drives he were in, especially early on, he moved the ball, right? He figured out a way to get the ball in the hands of playmakers. They moved the ball down the field. Tommy went 3 and out. Timmy actually drove us down for a long field goal that missed, right? So there's something about him. While I wouldn't put him on like a quarterback training tape, maybe he seems to just have an it factor that allows him to be successful. Now, I'm not saying that's the best strategy from a quarterback standpoint, but he's got some reps in him, right? So again, if the headline simply was QB2 transfers out, new QB2 has 1 year of FBS experience, we'd all go, it's not so bad, right? When you plug the names in, you plug in some of the other stuff, that's what makes it different. But I think Timmy's got a legit shot. He just isn't the quintessential, drop back style quarterback.
And what did we learn in 2022 with John Rice Plumlee going down with injury? We saw Mikey Keene play. We even saw the red shirt, which means nothing anymore, right? Burning a red shirt on Thomas Castellanos. You're going to see more than one quarterback this season, Leo.
Yeah, I don't want to say this, but imagine we go after Ben Bryant. Just imagine we end up going after Ben Bryant. To get another QB in, it's going to be a tough search, but I think we'll get it done. I don't know if it's going to be Ben Bryant. That's like QB1. That's like competing with JRP. I don't think Gus has, the yeah, I mean, it sounds wild, but
was that your comment, Ed?
That is my comment. If Ben Bryant's the best we can do in the portal, then let's just stick with Timmy McClain at that point.
But there may not be a lot right now in the portal.
Right.
That can come in.
Right.
Well, again, but if you're a portal quarterback, if you're thinking about going in the portal, and I assume if you're smart, Leo said somebody who has 5 senses, so I'll say 4.5 senses at least. And you look around and go, okay, what spots are open? Where can I maybe go and compete? Where do I have opportunity? Maybe a week ago, you're like, UCF's got these 2 guys, they got this young kid, whatever. And all of a sudden they're like, well, wait a minute. JRP's a senior. Now they lost this guy. They have a freshman coming in. Maybe that becomes more attractive. So I think you have to look at this change and does somebody look at UCF now going to the Big 12 with what we hope is a good offense and says, hey, I can go in there and be successful. Again, I don't think it's Ben Bryant, Leo. If it is, oof, maybe it's somebody.
But the thing is, I feel like Gus is he is certain that JRP will be the guy. He'll be QB1. So if Ben Bryant is brought in, is to be that QB2 type to compete and give John a push. But I don't even know why I said Ben Bryant, to be honest. That sounds like a far stretch, but there really isn't a QB out there that I'm looking at him just saying, okay, he can give JRP a run for his money and he's going to get the QB1 guaranteed. So right now it's more of let's see if we can get a QB2.
Well, Adam, you and Mike spent a good bit of the time, great conversation on the podcast this week, breaking down the game and talked a little bit about special teams and some of the levity that occurred during this spring game. And I thought we were going to use this A block to talk more about the spring game and then, of course, the breaking news. So It doesn't change the fact that our first guest was mentioned right off the top of the presser Friday following the spring game from head coach Gus Malzahn.
We had Zach Shields as our fan field goal participant, and he really came close. And if you saw practice yesterday, he came a long way.
He came a long way. You showed that clip a little bit sooner than we could bring in our first guest of the evening. He is mentioned by Gus Malzahn. He is Zach Shields, class of 2012. Zach, thanks for being with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we just saw a little bit of that clip, and I'm sure Adam can play it again. But first question, how does this come to be? I mean, this is a moment everybody in the stands wish they could have. All those folks that watch the games and say, hey, I could do it better. You had that opportunity to go out there. How did it come to be?
Yeah, so, well, first and foremost, it is way harder than it looks. So I will never talk bad about a kicker again. But, yeah, so the Kingdom NIL had an event a couple weeks ago, and there was an auction at the event, and they auctioned off a lot of cool things and experiences and memorabilia. And one of them was kick the first extra point at the spring game. And I was like, I for sure have to win that. Like, no questions asked. That's me. And I don't know why that thought entered my head, because I've never played an organized sport even close to the D1 level. But yeah, so I did it. And the slide said it would come with some coaching from the special teams coach and time with the specialist pregame and things like that. So yeah, I won the auction. Bought some footballs and a holder off of Amazon. Went out to the park, a park near my house that had a field goal the week of the spring game, and got some reps in. It was horrible. It was awful. Woke up with my leg hurting in places I didn't know it could hurt. My back was hurting. And I'm like, I'm not an athlete. What the heck was I thinking betting on this thing? So then I got a text from SJ Thursday morning, the day before the spring game, and he was like, hey, can you make it to practice tonight? And I was like, if that means I'm getting some coaching, absolutely. So I went out there, went to practice, and watched the whole practice. And then at the end, Coach Malzahn calls the huddle, and he introduces me as kicking in the game the next day. And he said, all the specialists stay behind after practice to help Zach get some reps in. And then also anyone from the team that wants to stay behind and watch, feel free. And I'm like, oh, God. So
No pressure there.
Right. So I go over there, and I'm with Gage, the long snapper, a new long snapper, great guy, kind of close from where I was in California. And then Mitch was the holder. He was giving me pointers. Boomer is recovering from an injury, but he was giving pointers as well. I turn around, and half the team is standing there watching. JRP is by my side cheering me on. And first one in practice, I just squib it right directly into the end zone. Doesn't even get any height. Boomer made some adjustments for me, and I started getting some air, but after about 5 reps, it started to light me, and we had to leave the field. And I was like, wait, I need way more practice than this. So that's why Coach probably made that comment of I came a long way, because there was basically almost no practice. So then game day comes, and I get to Burger U for some liquid courage before the game, and went over and met up with Kenny, the citronaut that raced the horse. Kenny's Gus's assistant. Got me into the locker room. Oh, after practice, they fitted me for a helmet and cleats and everything. That was really cool. I'm in the football building with all the guys. So took me in the locker room, got my cleats and my helmet, and that process took a little longer than anticipated. I thought I was going to get some reps on the field before the game. Didn't happen. So I was going into it cold, because by the time I got my cleats on, the guys were coming back in the locker room, and it was about to be go time. So that was kind of the process of how it came about. And then, of course, you guys saw it went wide left a little bit. The home crowd started cheering. I guess from that side it looked like it went in, but it was such a cool experience. Like, just going through the motions with the guys and the team, and seeing the behind the scenes like complexities of a game day and how much manpower it takes to have a successful game day. Most people don't even know. So that was one of the cooler parts for me.
All right, Zach, take us on the field. You walk on the field in front of the crowd. Everyone's cheering. It was a little. I was at the game. It was a little confusing at first. I was like, "Wait, what's going on?" And then I recognized what's happening. What were your emotions?
Yeah.
Were you nervous? Were you scared? Were you trying not to throw up? Were you trying not to trip and fall on your face? What were your emotions when you got to the field?
Yeah, I actually wasn't too nervous. I got to make abundantly clear that this was not a live play, and that this was during a break in the action. yeah, I was headed out there, and I was watching the video that someone took for me on the sideline, and I heard Mitch McCarthy, who was holding the ball, giving the snap count to Gage. It was like green 42, whatever it was. And looking back on it in the moment, I didn't hear that. And I was only probably, 4 or 5 feet from Mitch. And everything was just complete silence in my head. I didn't hear a thing. And I was like, wow, I didn't hear the snap count. So all I was doing was just locked in on where the ball was. That was like the biggest thing that Boomer told me at practice. And even before I went out there, he was like, just keep your head down, keep your eyes locked in on where that ball is going to be placed. And so that's what I was doing. And it came off my foot. It felt good coming off my foot, but yeah, couldn't make it happen.
All right, Zach. So talk about the execution. You got the snap. Just if you get it,
Take us through the miss.
yeah. If you as the kicker get a
Yeah.
good snap and hold, because from our point of view, only you know that.
Yeah, and I don't know if Mitch was just trying to make me feel better or even worse. He was like, later, like towards the end of the first half, he was like, yours was actually one of the best snap and holds that we've had this half. And I was like, oh, well, sorry, I messed that one up. It's funny. Randy Pittman, who is a new tight end on the team that was dazzling in spring practice, he came up to me in the locker room and he was like, hey, man, you excited? He was like, I don't know much about kicking, but I do know it's not about how hard. It's not about how hard you kick the ball. And I was like, okay, thank you. What is it about? And he was like, I don't know. I just know it's not about that. And he walked away. So, I had so many people in my ear. Coach Hand had some choice words of what he was going to come and rip on me if I didn't make it. So I had all that going on in my head, but yeah, it was really cool.
Is there a piece of advice that you'd gotten from Coach Blackman or Boomer or someone else that you tried to incorporate into your kick?
Yeah. So when I was practicing earlier in the week on my own, I was watching YouTube videos and it said take 3 steps back, 2 to the left, or and it also said to kind of go off the side of your foot instead of straight on. But when I got with Boomer at practice, he was like, for you, if you want to get some height, like just go end over end. So just toe it, go straight at it. And he was like, don't even worry about taking the steps to the left. Just take 3 steps directly back from the ball and then go at it. So as soon as I changed that, I got height and I got distance. So turns out these guys know what they're talking about.
Zach, did you get any souvenirs? Did you get to keep the helmet or the shoes? Did you steal anything? Did you get the ball back? Did you get any souvenirs?
Did you steal anything?
I mean, I'm just asking.
There was such a huge missed opportunity, and I think just in the chaos of the moment and the game that I didn't think of it at the time. But through different channels, I was hearing I was in negotiations with Coach on kicking, on redeeming myself, and we went back and forth a couple times. And I should have accepted his final offer with the caveat that I keep the helmet, and I didn't think of that until later. So no, didn't get to keep anything, but got lots of pictures and videos, and it's something I'll never forget. And it's something that they'll probably do again. So I highly recommend everyone get involved with the Kingdom. They're just getting started. They're putting together so many cool things and experiences that are really unique as a fan and fun to do.
Zach, were there any other options? Was it like get hit by a tight end? Was there any other on-field options available to people?
Yeah, so there was be a head coach for the day for the spring game. And so there's a guy by the name of Andon who's very involved with shareholders in the Kingdom who ended up doing that. And they had him, you probably saw him in the press conference. They had him, he was kind of Gus's shadow throughout the whole game. But that was the only on-field experiences, just those two. And they're having that same head coach experience for the Villanova game that I actually won as well. They had a lot of free drinks at this event, and I just was going for it. So coming up at Villanova, I'm going to do the head coach thing. So we'll see how that compares to being a kicker.
Zach, you mentioned the King NIL, obviously, raising money and to retain and get athletes and whatnot. What does it mean as a fan to you to, donate to your school and, be active, in donating?
Yeah, it's everything. It's what I put out on Twitter several times. I mean, whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter what you think. Like, it's here. We have to do it. We have to adapt. And if we want UCF to continue to be great, like, it's just no choice. So, I I want nothing more than for UCF to be as successful as possible. So, that's where I choose to, give where I can and, encourage people to do the same thing. And it's, the strength has always been in our numbers. I mean, they have plans that start at $1 a month. And we got almost 300,000 alumni. Like it's, it's here, and we just have to jump on board until it stops being the wild, wild west.
Right.
Based on what you saw of the skills competitions, had you been in one of those other things, how do you think you would have done with the strongest arm competition? How far do you think you could throw?
Oh, maybe 30 yards on a good day.
Okay, so you wouldn't have won that.
No.
Catching a punt.
I've always wanted to do that, but I've never caught like a punt from someone that knows what they're doing. It was so funny. They practiced for that in the practice the day before the game. So I saw them setting up for all that. I didn't want to leak anything because I think everything was pretty much a surprise, but in practice, it was even funnier because I think a lot of it was a surprise for the guys and they were just going crazy with it. Yeah, but that was very entertaining.
And what about racing the horse?
No chance. But Kenny had some speed. I thought like he was going to get blown out, but yeah. And I'm team Kenny on that. Coach even said on the microphone, "Go on 3." Yes. So Kenny went on 3. He didn't cheat. So I know the defense was screaming that he was cheating.
Zach, obviously you're an alum, you're a fan, you're a shareholder. What are your expectations for 2023 in our first year in the Big 12? What do you think UCF will be able to produce on the field?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think that we all need to temper expectations a bit. I mean, I've been saying that since 2018. But we got to get used to not winning every game, and I think if we have 9 wins, that's going to be a heck of a year. Because you just as good as we say we are on paper, and we have some talented guys. I mean, it takes time to get adjusted to the P5 level, and that environment day in or week in and week out is just. We're not playing in Tulsa, Oklahoma anymore. We're with the big boys. So,
yeah, Zach. So you mentioned the Big 12 and obviously our quarterback situation. I don't know if you've been keeping up, but Tommy Castellanos just entered the transfer portal. What do you think about QB situation moving forward, and who's your QB1?
Yeah, so I love Tommy. I think he's a great guy, and I wish him all the best. I was at 3 or 4 practices this spring. And what I kept telling my friends and some others was I think Timmy was impressing me more in practice. Now, I'm no talent scout by any means, but I saw Timmy making better reads and making better practices, or better, accurate passes, more so than I was seeing Tommy do that. Again, very, very minimal exposure, 3 or 4 practices, but right. I was very excited about Timmy when I left practice. So, all this talk about, what are we going to do? I think Timmy can step in just fine.
And bottom line for you, thrill of a lifetime to participate that, and Colton Boomer need not worry.
Yeah, no. Boomer's job is good, but funny role reversal. Boomer is studying real estate, and so he wants me to help him with that. So I'll be helping him with the job, just not kicking.
There you go. Zach, thanks for sharing this story. We appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Sure. Thanks, guys.
Exactly.
All right, Adam, you saw the competitions. How do you think you would have fared in those various challenges? Let's start with a kick. Do you think you could have made a kick?
What was the distance again? I don't know if I remember the distance.
Sure.
I know it was going to be my short answer. I do. Since my daughter's been playing soccer, I have been practicing with her. I feel like I've built my leg a little bit up, but I'm not going to tell you I can make that kick. There's no way.
What about you, Leo? You played soccer, right?
Yeah. I would kill it in the kicking game.
Well,
no doubt.
Unabashed. You wear the UCF mic seat very well.
Yeah, I'd kill it in the kicking one, but I don't think I'd be too shabby catching punts either. I think I'd be pretty good at trapping punts. So we'll see.
Adam, I'm a little disoriented being back in the boxes with you this week. I kind of missed watching. I didn't know I was weirding you out during the show last week.
I look a little post-show like Trace looked like so Trace is a news veteran. He's gone through trainings, he's gone through seminars, he's been with professionals. I'm just an idiot with a microphone. So I'm over here talking and Trace is looking at me the entire time, and it got a little unnerving. And I was like, do I have to look at him too? And so I didn't know what happened for a while there. It was awkward. I'm glad. Here's the funny: Leo was like 4 feet like across the street from us and wasn't there actually
Right.
at the game, which is even better.
It was a good time. Been a week. It's hard to believe, and so many people have enjoyed hearing from the former UCF legends that we featured. We want to share a couple more sound bites from those guys that you've got queued up.
It's going to be a great move. I feel like it's a great move for UCF, and to put UCF on the map and give them a chance to go win it all.
I'm definitely excited about it. I can't wait because I definitely know we can compete with anybody.
Yeah, Big 12. I mean, you heard it here first. Big 12 champs. We're going to come and we're going to take it. As every conference we've played in, we're going to come in and make a splash. I think, personnel-wise, we're well suited for the conference, and it's about coming in and rising to the level of who you're playing against. So I have all the confidence in the world we're going to do that.
Of course, Joey Grant downplaying expectations. We're just going to
go. If we ever lose UCF Mike, I think we just call Joey Grant.
He didn't say what year, though. He didn't say
That's
what year.
fair.
You can see the full interviews. Also, Blake Bortles, Mackenzie Milton, Dante Culpepper, all included in that video on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel, and a little contest that you announced this week on the Sons YouTube channel. Oh, you got the photo.
Yeah, guess the club. So Trace and I were at the event, and I snapped this photograph. One of UCF's former players and/or coaches was playing with these here clubs. So I put the question out on Twitter, out on Instagram. Essentially said, first person to get the guess correct is going to be the winner of the clubs. Leo, do you have a guess really quickly?
I'm going to go basic. I don't want to say something crazy. I'm going to go Blake Bortles.
A lot of Blake Bortles guesses, a lot of Gabe Davis guesses. Unfortunately, those are all incorrect. The correct answer is Dante Culpepper is the owner of these golf clubs, which means Jackson Lyon, you are the only one to get this correct. You win the size medium Citronaut button-up T-shirt, which is weird because he also has a profile picture with no shirt on. So what are you going to do with that? But Jackson Lyon is the winner. These are indeed the golf clubs of one Dante Culpepper.
Giggity.
I would never think Dante Culpepper would watch his Family Guy like that, but okay.
And Trace can confirm in case there's anybody. This is a confirmation. This is not tomfoolery. These are Dante's actual clubs.
Those are Dante Culpeppers. Yep. It was a good photo by you. We were joking about it. I didn't realize you'd taken a photo, so surprised to see it when it was announced as a contest.
So congrats to Jackson Lyon. I will get in touch with you and get you your Citronaut shirt.
Long time listener and viewer. So congratulations to Jackson. Before we dig back into this spring game a little more breakdown, some more football news this Thursday night nations celebrations. Adam, what's the Suns budget? Leo and I haven't worked this out, but one of them's in Atlanta, another one's New York City, and of course the one in Orlando. It seemed like Leo and I could divvy up between Atlanta and New York. How's the Suns budget?
Yeah, I'd say strong to quite strong on this one, Trace. I think we can get Mike to New York City. The fun thing is these are 3 cities I think Mike would actually go to. Leo can go with him. They can pretend like the Giants are good at football for a little bit and have a good time out there. So maybe Leo and Mike take a road trip. Wouldn't that be some content, by the way? Leo and Mike.
We hit up a Yankees game for sure. So.
Yeah, Leo and Mike with content. Yeah, it's cool that we're branching out to other cities. I know a lot of folks ask that question all the time. A lot of people obviously, don't live in Orlando. So I think it's cool that they're branching out to other cities and bringing the quasi charge on tour, if you will, abroad maybe one day. Who knows? But at least we're getting outside of Florida.
Atlanta, May 10th, New York City, May 25th. By the way, did you see amongst the guests at the Big Apple one, Johnny Dawkins, head coach of your UCF men's basketball team, and then, of course, the event at the Ace Cafe in Orlando. Terry Mohajir updating season tickets, only 345 left, 99% sold. He's been talking about that on media appearances that he had made today. So Knights closing in on a sellout. Interestingly enough, Houston posting that they have sold an additional 5,000 season tickets, and they're up to 15,000, and that's, I guess, a record high for them. So a little bit of a disparity between UCF and Houston in that. Well, as I mentioned, talking about the game a little bit more, and I wanted to invite this guest in because he wrote just this wonderful feature story on quarterback Thomas Castellato. He is Nate Marrero. He is sports editor at UCF's NSN Today. Nate, welcome in to Sons of UCF Live.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I'm sorry for putting the jinx on Tommy Castellanos. I did not see that coming.
It was a feature story. You're doing some work for the Orlando Sentinel as well. That got the thumbs up from Darren Hinshaw, and this was just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, he retweeted it. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then here we are talking about what are they going to do in the QB room now.
Did the news come as a surprise to you?
Definitely, because when you look at the press conference, he's like, I want to be QB1. If I'm not, then I'm the future of this place. It seemed like he was content with being the backup if he had to be to John Reese Plumlee. And then, they talked about final practice on Tuesday. Then they're going to have exit meetings. Something must have happened in an exit meeting that caused him to change his mind and enter the transfer portal.
Well, Nate, how do you feel about the QB situation now? Obviously, John Rice Plumlee coming back, Timmy McClain now, Dylan Risk coming in. How do you feel about the QB situation now and it appears as though Tommy will not be a part of it?
Not as good as with Tommy being a part of it.
Not as good.
It seemed like he had improved. Darren Hinshaw's offense, they're going to focus more on going down the field. Castellanos seemed to really like that aspect of the offense, and now it seemed like he was ahead of Timmy McClain too, because he took most of the reps. Timmy McClain played for a little bit while John Reese Plumlee was doing his thing between baseball and football. And then once Plumlee got there, it was just Plumlee and Castellanos. So it's just going to be interesting to see how it works out. Maybe UCF is comfortable with McClain. If more time, he'll be more capable. He'll be capable of filling in that position. But I don't know. I mean, they have time to figure it out. But it's definitely it'd be lying to not say it's a huge loss.
So, Nate, earlier in the show, I spoke about how this may be just a kid that handled the media in maybe not the best way when he said, hey, I'm here to stay, kind of, I'll be the future quarterback. Or it could be a jab that he was already unhappy and he's entered the portal. He already knew he was entering the portal. We're talking about a 5-4 day turnaround. So I could see where you're going with maybe in the exit meeting something, but I think there might be a little bit to unpack. Which side do you fall on? Do you think he just handled it, or do you think he jabbed at UCF there?
No, I think something happened in an exit meeting. I don't think the way he was talking, it wasn't like, I feel like if he was 1 foot out the door, he wouldn't have talked the way he talked. He wouldn't have said I'm the future of this place. I think maybe they told him, maybe they were gonna, something I saw on Twitter, maybe they're gonna try and redshirt him so he'd be a redshirt sophomore heading into the 2024 season. He's doesn't want any part of that. He just wants to go somewhere where he can play right away or at least have a chance to win a job. So no, I think something happened between that press conference on Friday and today.
Well, let's talk about the spring game a little bit more. You were there. What are some of the positives that you took away from the offense as you watched it? 2 12-minute quarters, not a competitive game situation, glorified practice, but first time fans got to see it in a wider, the stadium.
I liked how it seemed like there was more of an emphasis on pushing the ball down the field. I think with Malzahn, they're always going to be focused on running the ball, but the ability to push the ball down the field will open that up. When you get predictable or you're trying to throw short passes and stuff like that, you can kind of flood the middle of the field, play up. But if you're able to push the ball down the field to guys like Kobe Hudson and Javon Baker, that's going to open up the offense so much more. And in the Big 12, where you're going to have to score some points. I know they haven't been quite as offensive in recent years, or it's been more defensive recently. But I mean, just the aggressiveness in the passing game is something that really stood out to me. I think that's going to be huge for them.
Did you see progress from John Rice Plumlee from when we last saw him playing football, in the fall?
I think so. It seemed like he stood in the pocket a little more. It felt like last year, if the first read wasn't there, he was gone. And granted, part of it's he's not getting hit or anything like that in the spring game. But I think that's going to be, just to sit in the pocket, trust you guys get open. They have talented receivers. So, just trusting those guys. And if the O-line can block, that's going to be, I would say I thought he looked much better with his footwork and patience in the pocket.
Interesting if the O-line can block.
Yeah, well, it's hard to – that's something you find out when you're facing the other team.
He's right about that. Was there a name on offense, Nate, that kind of stood out to you? Somebody who maybe caught your attention that you hadn't seen play yet because he was obviously a freshman or a transfer? Anybody kind of stand out to you from that standpoint?
Oh, God. DeMarcus Bowden, that's his name, right?
Bowman.
Close enough. But no, Bowman looked the part. He looked very explosive, was able to bounce the outside, find the hole. And then in the second half for him to win the race, granted, did he leave early? I don't know. That's not my spot to judge. But I think his explosiveness will be very welcome in the running back room.
Nate, obviously, JRP had a huge day last Friday with the baseball and football. Take us, through your experience because you were covering him closely and what you thought about it. Obviously, it was a huge hit all across the nation, and just want to hear from your perspective a little more.
I think it's incredible. It's you can't take it for granted for him, and he's playing a high level Division I in two sports. He goes 2 for 3 with a 2-run triple for baseball. In 7th inning, he makes a mad dash to go to football, and then 7 minutes later, he's on the field, getting ready, and he performs well in the spring game. That's just something that you can't take it for granted. It's not something. It's going to be a while before we see that at any other college, let alone at UCF.
Let's talk about the defense a little bit. Do you have more questions about what you saw coming out of spring on defense or the offense?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's just with spring games, it's hard to tell because you're facing the same people day in, day out. I guess I would go offense. Just I don't know. Can I say both? Just because
you can say whatever you want.
Fair enough. But
you can ride the fence there.
No. I did like Caven Call. He had a sack and a fumble recovery. I think as a freshman, that's going to be, if he can be a contributor, that's going to be huge. What Lee Hunter was seeing like he was always around a quarterback. He had a pass deflection. So I think those two on the defensive line, I liked how they played. I think that's going to be important, especially heading into the Big 12.
What did you think of the overall format of the spring game? Obviously, 24 minutes of football and then 20 minutes of fun and revelry. What did you think of kind of the new format and all the fan-friendly stuff that Gus teased that we saw on the field?
I loved it. I mean, I think the spring game is supposed to be fun. I mean, you're only going to learn so much. I mean, you're playing against the same guys you played against for roughly a month. And they lost a player to injury during the spring game last year. So, I mean, I think, you get a half, you see what you have, and then, just have some fun, make it interesting. I thought it was fun to watch.
Nate, portal season's here. Obviously, Tommy already hit the portal, but I think the team needs to address some issues with positions, maybe at linebacker, different areas. What is your opinion on what position UCF needs to improve and what they need to address?
I definitely think linebacker, they could use maybe a little more experience. I know they talk about how they're going downhill. It was Jason Johnson who talked about how it's like similar scheme, but they're focusing more on going downhill. So a linebacker that would maybe fit that. I think that would probably. I think you're right. Linebacker would probably be the biggest area of focus, and you can never have too many offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Those are spots you should always be looking to improve.
Of course, they're going to lose some guys in the portal. They're going to bring some guys in. How likely do you think there's a quarterback in the mix that comes in?
I think there's going to have to be, unless you really trust the true freshman Dylan Rizek to come in and be that third guy. I don't know who they're going to get. I'd be lying if I said I looked at the transfer portal from the time since Tommy entered to now. But I think you have to, look. The only thing is I don't know who would want to transfer that. Odds are they probably won't have it. They'll probably be third string and have to, that's someone who's willing to accept that role. It's probably going to be tough.
Nate, how do you think Gus Malzahn is going to adapt to not being the play caller, right? There's been a lot of conversation, obviously, about Darren Hinshaw taking over. You were around him a little bit this spring, and Trace was there for a few as well, and kind of saw him in that new CEO role. How do you think he'll adapt to becoming the CEO, if you will, and having less maybe play-to-play responsibility from an offensive standpoint?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think it's probably the first time he hasn't been calling plays. So I still feel like it's going to be his offense. Like he's still going to have a lot to say. It'll be interesting to see how he adapts to it. I mean, spring game, you're not going to learn. I don't think I'm not even going to lie. I'm not 100% sure. I think eventually it'll take a few games for him to figure it out. But I think it's just like everything, you need the experience to adjust to it.
How comfortable are you facing either defenses or offenses in the P5 level against like teams like West Virginia, Oklahoma? How well do you think we match up against teams like that going into next season?
I think offensively they should. I think they have a chance to hold their own if the offense continues to improve, if Plumlee takes the steps in the right direction. I think they have the skill position players to, hang with the best of them in the Big 12. To hold their own. I'd say they're probably middle of the pack, maybe.
Fair.
But yeah, I trust their skill position players. Defense, it seems like that's always been a bit of a question mark whenever they face really good teams. That's just something we're gonna have to see. Hopefully, familiarity of Addison Williams, guys who have been in the system. Hopefully, that'll help them take the jump, along with some talented freshmen who are going to be taking the field in the fall.
You've been covering football, but also baseball, and we've been talking about John Rice Plumlee. How do you think he's done as a baseball player? What were your expectations for him?
I'd be lying if I said I had high expectations. In his last year at Ole Miss, he was kind of But I mean, if you told anyone, hey, he's going to hit around 300, 5 home runs, a few stolen bases, play solid defense, I mean, you would take that 1,000%. So I think he's done a great job, especially when you consider the expectations and the unknowns heading into the season.
All right, Nate, first time we've had you on the show, so we've got to get to know you a little bit. So I've got some this or that questions for you. Rapid fire. Yeah, I need some quick answers for you. Here we go. Rather be hot or rather be cold?
Hot.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Day or night?
Oh, I'll go night.
Window seat or aisle seat?
Window.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
And the last one, would you rather be invisible or have the ability to fly?
I'll take the ability to fly.
All right, fair enough. Well, now we know Nate better. Look at
that. Yeah.
You got any more rapid fires, Leo?
Rapid fires. You know what? We have some common ground here. Yankees, expectations of the season. What do you think of what they've done so far?
We're doing this again.
Oh yeah, we can go on for like the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, we gotta get Yankees propaganda in here. So.
I've learned not to get my expectations up with the Yankees. They'll probably make the playoffs and then they'll probably get bounced. Rodon not being healthy is not great. Donaldson's all of a sudden hurt. Stanton's hurt. IKF is playing every day, which is not what you want if you want to contend for a World Series. Garrett Cole looks like, what you wanted to when you signed him to that huge deal, which is, there's so booing in the comment section. But no, I'm just not going to get my hopes up. It's just, setting myself up to be like.
I got you. It's almost like we hit replay every year, right?
Yeah, it's the same song and dance,
All right, let's steer this back to UCF baseball. Is baseball your first love between baseball and football?
Yes, I played it growing up.
And you've been covering UCF baseball. Let's talk about this team a little bit. Keep you around for a few more moments. Baseball gets the walk to rally and beat Stetson 7-6, move to 21-16. It's been an inconsistent team. They have, however, won 4 out of 5. Are you seeing something here? Maybe they've turned a bit of a corner as they head to Tampa this weekend.
I think they have. I think it's been a little bit, sometimes it's pitching, sometimes it's a bats, but really their resiliency has stood out to me. They were down 5-0 against Memphis. They come back and win 8-6. They're down again against Stetson and they come back to win. Whenever you have that mentality that's just 27 outs, like until we get to that point, we still have a chance. That's going to keep you in the game against anyone.
Knights or Citronauts?
We're back to rapid fire.
I'll go Knights. Yeah. I like the Citronauts, though.
So Trace is a one-time-a-year Citronaut fan. Would you be opposed to it becoming more of a uniform option, or do you want once a year special, roll it out for a good night and put it away for a year?
I wouldn't mind if it was more of an option.
What are your thoughts on the Citronaut baseball uniforms that A, look a lot like the Kansas City Royals, and B, have not been very, very lucky when we've worn them?
Anything that looks like the Royals is an automatic red flag. Honestly, I would switch it up if I were them. Maybe throw in some white pants, throw in a white, throwing with the hat. Yeah, I don't know. When you look at, I'm very superstitious, and when you look at how they've played in those Citronaut uniforms, I would throw them in the trash, honestly.
Nate, before we let you go, tell folks all the different things you're involved in, both on campus and, of course, your work with the Orlando Sentinel.
Yeah, so I am the sports editor for UCF student paper, NSM Today. We've got some good stuff coming out, especially in sports. We've got we have a feature on a player that's going to be in the NFL, UCF player that might get drafted. that's going to be coming out soon. What else do we have going on?
You doing anything on a guy that's about to enter the portal? You got a feature story just all queued up and ready to drop?
Yeah, I already dropped that in Orlando Sentinel, and apparently it caused him to scurry away. Anyways, but yeah, no, I'm an intern for the Orlando Sentinel. I've been doing a lot of covering high school sports, and hopefully, with the Big 12 moving to the Big 12 UCF Athletics, I'll be hopefully I can stay on and be a part of the team. And what else? That's about it. Yeah, NSM today, Orlando Sentinel. Check us out, and yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me on.
And maybe we'll have you back, Nate. You do good work. Thanks
Yeah,
for being with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Good deal, Nate. Mentioned the game, the series this weekend in Tampa. Earlier, the Knights hosted USF, dropped 2 out of 3. Catcher Ben McCabe was asked about that after the game, wanting to avenge that series loss to USF.
Leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, especially getting beat at home against those guys, big rivalry game. So, just looking forward to going over there and beating up on those guys and taking care of business and doing the best and get that revenge.
What did they do so well against you in that series?
They pitched pretty well against us. They had some guys that threw a lot of strikes, a lot of pitches in the zone, and we just didn't make the adjustments to the plate. So we just got to be better offensively from that standpoint, and pitching, just competing and filling up the zone and throwing the strikes we need to.
Friday in Tampa at 6:30, Saturday at 2, Sunday at 1. Knights need to keep winning series and improve their positioning in the American. Games are running out, series running out on the regular season before that conference tournament about a month from now over in Clearwater. Meantime, softball, they've been on a roll of late. They took the weekend series in Tulsa. The voice of UCF softball, who went viral with his call of JRP in the baseball game last Friday, but covers softball. They welcome in South Florida for the weekend. Let's turn to Eric Lopez for a little recap and preview.
Oh, guys, it is War and I-4 weekend. UCF and USF at the Plex. Big crowds expected this weekend. Alumni Day on Saturday with Mackenzie Otis, the recently inducted UCF Athletic Hall of Famer, to throw out the first pitch. Big series. UCF coming off winning 2 out of 3 at Tulsa in their final ever trip at Tulsa. I feel really confident in saying that. I think I speak that for most all UCF athletic teams that have ever had to play in Tulsa. Hallelujah. UCF took out a lot of years of frustrations on that Sunday game, run rolling Tulsa 13-1. Shannon Doherty hit 2 home runs in that game. She was named American Conference Player of the Week. She's been on a tear lately for the Knights. Sarah Willis was named Pitcher of the Week as well. Of course, the one setback was Saturday, the Knights losing on a walk-off walk. 6th walk-off loss this season for the Knights. I mean, it's just a what-ifs year. If the Knights maybe flip 3 or 4 of those games, we might be talking about a hosting situation instead of being on the bubble. But it is what it is. They did win the series at Tulsa. They're still in the 30s RPI-wise, in position to make the NCAA tournament. That remains to be seen. A lot of softball against a South Florida team that's in the top 60 RPI. They just lost a walk-off grand slam to Florida in Gainesville late Wednesday night. They're going to be hosting the American Conference Championship, so these two teams could play again in about a month in Tampa. But this is the last scheduled conference series between these two teams. It's the last scheduled meeting. Both head coaches are trying to make it work to continue this rivalry, perhaps as a midweek maybe next year, but both have to adjust, as they've told me. Ken Erickson, the head coach of South Florida, and Cindy Ball Malone of UCF, part of the challenges they both have, they're both going to be in conferences next year that are larger. The Americans going from 7 to 10 teams, the Big 12 obviously being a 10-team league, so there's less dates to work with. But I think they'll figure something out. But nonetheless, big series for UCF. If they want to continue their track to the NCAA tournament and the conference championships, they're still a game back of Wichita State in the standings. 40th meeting, South Florida and UCF. Friday night, ESPN Plus. We'll have all the coverage this weekend. I'll be joined by 3-time All-American Francesca Anea for the call on ESPN Plus Friday at 6, Saturday at 4, and then Sunday at noon. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Eric. So smooth. It looks like he's done this a time or two before. We go around the kingdom. Now, women's golf, they finished second in the AAC championship, and in doing so, clinched the War on I-4. UCF 7 straight wins in that, going to keep the trophy, not going back to Tampa. There's still some sports, of course, baseball, softball, track ahead, but UCF has clinched that. And women's tennis today, they beat Houston in the AAC championship. They move on The second-seeded Knights face the sixth-seeded Memphis Tigers Friday at 3. Time to open the mailbag. Any sound effects? Anything?
It's back by popular demand. It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
Gets me every week. Every week he gets me.
My favorite question, though, who is this guy? That was last week. Scrolled
Gets me every week.
At Statboy Drew asked, why didn't I see you at the yard sale? That's my question really for you, Adam. We talked about it when you were in town. The missus called an audible. No going out there?
Yeah, honestly, we had I forgot my daughter had a soccer game on Saturday afternoon that we had to skedaddle for. So family things got in the way. I think I got the green light to have made a purchase. But then after I realized I couldn't go anyway, I kind of gave it up. But I think I had the green light to make a purchase.
Leo, you bought some stuff, right?
Yes, I did. I got some soccer jerseys, and as well as I got a rain jacket, nice rain jacket. By the time I got there, it was for students, and all the good stuff was gone. So, but I got my.
What's a soccer jersey set you back?
What was that?
What's a soccer jersey? How much it set you back?
Oh, $10.
$10.
That's it. Yeah.
That's tremendous. That's Adam. You would wanted one of those.
I always wanted one of those soccer jerseys. I got to talk, Leo.
Yeah. At Spursy Night, we talked about this a little bit, but maybe framing it with his question. Biggest takeaway from the spring game. Adam, what's your one key takeaway from the spring game?
I'll go negative on this one. I think the offense is way ahead of the defense, so I think we've got to continue to work on our defensive side. I think the linebackers and the secondary need a little bit of continuation there. So my one takeaway is we've got some work to do, I think, on the defensive side.
What about you, Leo?
Yeah, the stretching the ball downfield, vertical passing. I love seeing those long passes to Kobe Hudson and Javon Baker. And on the defensive side of the ball, the secondary needs work, and that's my take on spring.
My takeaway is don't believe everything you hear in the post-game press conferences. At Rejoice Nights, what did you think of the format? Adam, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Thumbs up. I think there were missed opportunities, Trace, because I actually really enjoyed that second half part.
It went fast. It went
really fast. I said to my wife, like, it's over. I think we could have turned this into like an absolute like elementary school field day situation, right? That thing we put the bat down, you circle around, you got to run forward. JRP was there. They could have easily done like a wiffle ball competition. Who could hit the farthest ball, right? That little egg thing that you got to carry to your teammate. Put the water in the bucket. I want this to be full on fifth grade field day. I think we missed opportunities there.
Yeah, thumbs up from me all the way. I mean, what other university is doing this? I can't really tell you another university is doing it like UCF. So thumbs up. Gus, great idea. I don't even know if it was Gus's idea, but definitely continue doing this for the rest of the football. So
I'm thumbs up on it. I'm curious, though, they announced 16,000 plus on the crowd. Might they have drawn a better crowd on a Saturday night? Maybe they'll consider the Friday night versus the Saturday night. But overall, I think they handled it well. At Mr. Nightman _ how you feeling about quarterbacks behind the line? I don't know that we learned a whole lot about the line. We're not going to get anything comprehensive about that. There are a lot of new pieces on the line. And my only concern is that throughout last season, they kept talking about new guys coming in and it taking time to gel. Well, that's right. To quote Gus, the new age of college football, you're going to always have guys coming in. You're going to have to gel quicker.
These are real football players, Trace. Real football players. Yeah, I mean, look, the only surprise I had is as Rubelt was starting, I think it was right tackle. I think he played a lot of left tackle last year. I think he was on the right side. Obviously, bringing in a transfer like Amari Kite, he did not get on the field in the first unit. To your point, I don't know what to read into this. All I can read into it is I still think there's a lot of work we'll do around the line. I don't think we saw anything close to what we're going to see come September.
Yeah, expect a lot of movement on the offensive line, whether it's in or out. That needs to be resolved as soon as possible because we will need to gel fast. I can't fathom getting to the beginning of the season and our offensive line still not gelling and not being 100% because we're going to need it from game 1 all the way to game 12.
Of course, we open the mailbag on Monday. We take questions up until the afternoon when we put the show rundown and finalize it. These two are portal-related questions. At Phil Talk Sports, what players would you put on Portal Watch now that it's open again? And more interesting, perhaps, is the JC Morning. News from UCF been very quiet. Of course, that's changed. He says, what will surprise you? He mentions quarterback. He's saying, of course, not saying to start, but a solid backup that might allow Thomas Castellanos to redshirt. You wonder if that was part of the conversation from coaches with Thomas and their end of spring camp meetings. But you can't imagine that just the 3 names that broke late this afternoon are the final 3 into that portal. You think there's another surprise or two at?
I do. I think there'll be one more name that's either in the rotation or already an established starter that will test the waters. Again, I honestly wouldn't have picked quarterback. I actually felt like we'd be okay there. But I don't know if I'm guessing, it's just this complete guess. I'm looking at either the running back room, the cornerback room, or even an offensive line.
I'm going to touch up on what Adam just said. I think look out for running back and look out for Johnny Richardson. I'm going to continue saying his name specifically. Look out for DBs for sure. I think it's packed in there. We saw a good outing from William Wells, which is pretty good for him because he's a junior. So we need some guys with experience back there. So definitely those 2 positions.
At NOS LOLW, should there be some sort of time frame set for coaching changes as players in this in the portal bounce out of a program, some with legit issues with coaching or system, only to have the coach or system change again? I think this speaks to it as well. UCF Guy 23 talking about this whole, topic raised by Mike Gundy, the concept of free agency. What it says to me is that this still hasn't settled, and it's still a big mess, right? And there's a lot of flux here.
I think, Trace, the bigger issue right now is honestly, I think it's assistant coaches and position coaches. Because if you think about the guys who have left UCF or who are thinking about it, a lot of them are going to places where their position coach already moved to. So I think we think a lot about head coach, but I think it's the position coaches that are driving a lot of this traffic because, frankly, they have a direct line to their former players. And no, it's illegal, but they have direct lines to former players, right? We've seen that happen a few times with UCF now. I think that's where more of the change is happening. I don't know how you legislate that, though. I don't know that you put a window on that stuff. Because if a coach goes to the NFL tomorrow, it's a college, like, we don't have a running back coach, sorry. You're going to have to fill that spot. So I don't know how you legislate that. But to me, it's the assistant coaches that are probably more of the things to watch out for than head coaches.
Well, and to your point there, it makes you wonder, does somebody go to Arkansas with T. Will there? Does somebody go to Ole Miss? Does somebody go to Boston College where Ryan O'Keefe is? Or Miami, where there's a couple of guys,
Yeah, I think those are the breadcrumbs we have to connect. I think a lot of times when guys get in portal, I think NIL is one, but I think it's where's the previous relationship that maybe allows them to feel comfortable with coaching, right? We saw that 2 years ago with Tatum Bethune, or where's there a previous relationship maybe with somebody who transferred out of UCF someplace else. I think that's where head coaches are one thing. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's the assistant coaches that are probably much bigger influences on guys leaving schools for others.
Agree, Leo?
I absolutely agree. Assistant coach, and what Adam was saying about being illegal, talking to players behind scenes, that happens. That still happens. You can't tell me Tommy Castellanos doesn't already have somebody that's whispering in his ear, telling him, "Hey, you'd be a good figure." Well, let's leave it at that.
At Brian W. Peterson, what's the least favorite question you've been asked in the mailbag? I don't have a specific one, and this is just going to invite these questions now, but I don't like the ones that are like, would you rather beat South Florida in football and then lose every other game in every other sport that you play to them, which is not realistic, but I hate those questions.
I feel like the one, maybe not the one I hate the most, but I feel like at least once a month, Trace, we get if you could drop any one sport and pick up any one sport, what would it be?
You know who you are. You've asked that question.
I think we get that at least once a month. Not my least favorite, but at least the most repeatable.
But where are we with that? We like men's track. We like beach volleyball.
Yeah, volleyball, men's track. I think I'm getting rid of golf. I think is what I always say when I have to do this.
Golf in the state of Florida.
You can.
You can't.
We could.
I know you're new around these parts. Got a least favorite question besides anything Brian asks, perhaps? That's also a statement.
Yeah, I do have one, actually. Does Trace like me or does he hate me? we got that asked once by Nick Williams. I don't know if you guys remember.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Does he like me?
Remind me, Leo, weren't you on his podcast? I forgot. I haven't seen that anymore.
Yeah, I was. It just brings all the attention on Trace. But when you get to know Trace, you'll know. He's a cool guy.
It's interesting because Adam hung out with me all last week,
just
and I was still cow of the week for some reason.
Oh my goodness! When he lost his phone, Leo, like, hey, every piece of video we had taken was on this phone, and we get to the one spot, he's like, I don't have my phone, and all like the 5 hours we had just put in would have been for nothing, for naughts, one might say. And then I've never seen a man with more panic on his face than Trey Strelko for the 10 minutes that we went scavenging for his cell phone, which luckily we found. But,
well, when you look back at that, right, it could have been really a long distance anywhere. It could have been picked up, turned into lost and found, but especially where we found it, very easily could have been run over by a golf cart.
And to be fair, I was driving the golf cart. I did take a bump pretty quickly. It's possible that's when the phone jostled free. I'm not saying it's my fault, but I guess in theory that could be an option as well.
Yeah, and let's end with W. Prell Brock 4, long timer, hadn't seen you in a while. Sons of UCF spring game competition. We'll include Mike in this as well as Leo. Who's taking home the trophy? Farthest throw.
Wow.
I mean, so here's the thing. I know Mike played baseball, so I know he's got an arm. I don't know Leo's sporting background. I know he played soccer, so I don't know his sporting background. I know Mike played baseball, so by default right now I'll give it to Mike just because I don't know if Leo played baseball. Trace, I don't think you were a baseball guy, so I'm gonna go with one of those two. I don't know about Leo if he played baseball though.
Fielding punts. This, of the three categories here, the throw, the catch, or the run, I gotta like my chances in the catch a little bit more than the other two, especially if we got Leo and Mike in the 100-yarder.
Here's the thing. I can catch the punt unless it's behind me. I don't want to have to backpedal for that thing because that's a recipe for me falling on my ass. If it's in front of me, I feel good about it. But if it's behind me, like, I'm just going to turn around and sit down because there's no way I'm getting that.
And Leo, you've got to now let's ask it this way. Leo versus Mike, there's an age difference there on the 100-yard dash.
Well, Mike does look athletic. There's no.
Well, let me just dispel this rumor right now. All right, Mike is a distance runner. Mike is not a speed runner. So if it was like, let's run a 5K fastest, Leo, you might have some competition there. Mike is not a speed runner though.
For sure, I could burn him in the 40. That's for sure.
Okay.
That's even now. But
I got to tell you, what's funny about the podcast earlier this week, you broke it up into two parts, really comprehensive discussions about the football game. And what do I remember? What's your go-to tool? This is the question that I remember when you get into a long discussion about tools and yard sales. I didn't see that kind
Well, Leo, would you ever buy a used blender at a yard sale?
You know what? I would.
Really?
For some reason.
You don't know what's been in that thing, though, Leo. When someone's at a yard sale.
I wouldn't either, but what do you think would be in the blender?
Have you met Society, Trace? Are you new around here? I mean, imagine all you want what could have been in that blender.
It's more a matter of I just don't know how clean it might be. And like a coffee pot too. Yeah, yes. That would be my concern. But Mike brought up the good point that we all eat out in restaurants and eating on dishes and silverware in other places.
True.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, Mario's 1,000% right here. Mike is watching the show. Apparently, he's ready to.
Yeah. Oh, I can't tell. Is that Mike?
All right. Good luck, Mike.
Remember, Mike's the one that wants, and really this spring game was tailored for it, but he's the one that wants some sort of competition between quarterbacks. I think we ought to stage some sort of competition between us at the first Sons of UCF tailgate. Can we cook that up?
I'm in. I mean, what are we doing?
That would be.
Are we doing? I mean, are we doing like feats of strength situations here, Trace, or athletic competitions? What are we doing here?
Something. Let's see if we can work on that. Good to see Mike chime in here at the end of the show. All right. I want to appreciate Zach Shields for coming in and reliving his Kingdom NIL moment at the spring game. And a big welcome to Nate Marrero with NSM for talking a little football as well. Baseball for us. Leo, thank you for pinch hitting again for Mike this week. Remember, go to the Sons of UCF YouTube channel, where we have that video that's got Dante and Blake and Casey and all these greats that we captured at the golf tournament. And my buddy John Weiss will have a new article coming out that'll be on the twonightsmedia.com. So a lot going on. Congratulations to our winner of the prize, Jackson. Get that shirt out to him. And guys, it's been fun. Next week, NFL draft. We're going to be going head-to-head with that, I guess, in the 8 o'clock hour. But I don't expect any Knights will get drafted in that first round. So we'll have time to talk about who might be able to end up in the NFL out of that one. So for Adam and Leo, I'm Trey Strelko. Go Knights, everyone.
Charge on, everyone, including this guy.
I'm Dante Culpepper. Thanks for watching the Sons of UCF.